Olivia, you were on that commission, on the task force. It took my breath away to hear Deborah Birx say, we have an excuse for the first 100,000 dead, but the rest bother her.
I watched the special. Obviously, I knew it was going to be hard for me to watch it. I knew that it would be painful given everything that we have lived in the past year and the number of deaths that we've now seen. And I know that Dr. Birx faced very challenging circumstances. Right, I saw it firsthand. I did see her take a stand internally at times, but, it still haunts me every day. I think about this every single day, and it's just a very hard thing to watch these doctors. And I'm glad that they're finally coming forward, and I'm glad she's telling people what this was really like firsthand. But I just wish that they would have come forward sooner, I guess, is really all I have to say about that. It's painful, Nicolle, and it's hard to think back that it didn't have to be this way, obviously, and what happened at the behest of this man, Trump.
But you knew better. You left. She knew better. And I want to show you something else. It turns out Redfield and others knew better, too. Let's watch.
I was on more than one occasion called by the secretary and his leadership, directing me to change the MMWR. Now, he may deny that, but it's true. The one time that was the most egregious was not only was I pressured by the secretary in his office and his lawyers. As I was driving home, his lawyer and his chief of staff called and pressured me again for at least another hour, even to the point of accusing me of failing to make this change that would cost, thousands of lives. And I finally had a moment in life where I said, enough's enough.
When we said there were millions of tests available, there weren't, right? There were components of the test available, but not the full meal deal.
So, Olivia, I guess what's so staggering and what seems to call out for an independent commission is Birx knew that they were responsible, you all were responsible for at least partially, for every death after the 100,000. For people that haven't worked in government or health, MMWR is the morbidity and mortality weekly reports. So the weekly numbers that tell us how many people are dying. He just said there, Redfield, that he was asked to change them. And then when they were saying tests were available, and I didn't bother racking the tape because who wants to see the former guy say it again and again, the lies were insufferable in the moment, there were never millions of tests available. Is an investigation necessary into all the lies that all of you were forced to tell?
Yes. There should be a full investigation because it was lies. It was one lie after another. And Dr. Redfield is telling the truth. He was asked to change those reports. I was there for some of those conversations. I was on the phone on the coordination calls where there was pushback inside of the White House on them, coming from offices that had no business pushing back, like OMB. I'm surprised to hear Dr. Redfield say he didn't receive pressure from the White House directly, that it was solely Secretary Azar. Well, that pressure was coming from somewhere. And yes, Azar is complicit in it. He is fully responsible for it, but there were also entities inside the White House doing this. And I think there should be an investigation because people should not be able to get away with the number of deaths and suffering that happened in this country under the previous administration. There are a lot of people who enabled this moment that are complicit.
Claire, you've been a part of it. I have fought so hard to never become numb to the death and the suffering. And the truth is 1,000 people a day are still dying. And I know we're a country bursting at the seams to get past this. But what can one party do? I mean, I think we're past the point of saying, will Republicans participate in an investigation into how the government lied its way to killing 400,000 Americans? That's Deborah Birx's number. The first 100,000 were going to happen. But she's attested to the next 400,000 being the fault of human error policy. What can one party do to investigate how the last administration contributed to the death of 400,000 humans?
Well, let me try to stay calm here, because the most shocking part of that special was that we didn't hear a heartfelt apology from these leaders that participated in the first big lie of the Trump. Well, there were so many lies, but this is a big one because it impacted people's lives. It killed people. They killed people by their failure to stand up to someone. And let's be honest here, Admiral Giroir, he was an admiral in our military. Not only is he harming the credibility of the health professionals in this country by what he participated in, he's harming the credibility of the United States military. I mean, for him to now say, well, you know, we were lying. He was lying. Admiral Giroir was lying. And the lie all came back to one simple truth, that Donald Trump didn't care who died. He only cared about making himself look better. And the fewer tests that were out there, the fewer positive tests were going to happen. And the more he could tell people it wasn't really a problem and look how well we're doing. So this was not only a lie, this was an evil lie, because it was all about promoting one individual at the expense of hundreds of thousands of American lives. I mean, this is like no other thing that has ever happened in our history before. And these four people now saying, whoops, we lied. Whoops, we were pressured. The notion that they think now this is somehow going to rehabilitate their reputations, I don't think so.
Well, and the notion that they knew at the time that Trump's lies were contributing to people not doing, there were two things we could do to protect ourselves, three things. We could wear masks. We could social distance if we had to move around, and we could stay home. And here's Trump advising against all of the above.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
This is going to be gone. It'll be gone. Hopefully gone for a long time.
I'd love to have it open by Easter. Okay, I would love to have it open by Easter. I will tell you that right now. I would love to have the country opened up and just raring to go by Easter.
So with the masks, it's going to be really a voluntary thing. You can do it. You don't have to do it. I'm choosing not to do it, but some people may want to do it, and that's okay. We have to get our country open, Jeff.
Can you say, sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here. That's my metrics. That's all I can do. We think some of the states can actually open up before the deadline of May 1st. And I think that will be a very exciting time indeed. I couldn't hear you. Can you take it off because I cannot hear you?
I'll just speak louder, sir.
Oh, okay, good. You want to be politically correct. Go ahead.
No, sir, I just want to wear the mask.
Go ahead. Today's announcement proves that our economy is roaring back. It's coming back extremely strong. We have some areas where we're putting out the flames or the fires, and that's working out well. Cases are up because we have the best testing in the world, and we have the most testing.
So, Phil Rucker, I didn't play that for Trump. I played that for Deborah Birx because she knew, she told CNN last night, she knew by March 19th, when Donald Trump made those comments, when he denigrated mask wearing, when he attacked a reporter, one of your colleagues for wearing one, she knew that what he was saying and doing was leading to the deaths of eventually up to 400,000 people. Is there any sort of forum for accountability for any of these people?
Well, and Nicolle, Dr. Birx, as well as others on that coronavirus task force had opportunities almost every single day last spring and summer to speak to the public directly the truth and to discredit or refute the lies that were coming from the president, and they didn't do so. You showed that video clip when Dr. Birx was sitting in the briefing room when the president was telling people to inject disinfectant in their bodies, and she didn't have anything to say there. And so it's really late to be coming now a year later to clean up those misstatements and all of those moments of silence. But it fits a pattern that we've seen through 4 years of the Trump presidency, where people at the highest levels of power in the federal government were afraid to speak the truth about the president and were afraid of what this president could do to them if they were to do so, and felt it was more important to hold on to their jobs and protect their own personal security in terms of their employment in the government than to tell the truth to the American people.
And Phil Rucker, I remember a stunning piece of Washington Post reporting that after this point, I'm sure that Olivia describes, where she tried to tell the truth in these meetings, she was on the outs, and the Washington Post had some stunning reporting about the extent she went to keep her job. So when forced to choose between telling the truth and saving her political fate, Washington Post has some incredible reporting that she poured all of her effort into saving her political position.
That's exactly right. She did, and others did as well. There were times when Dr. Redfield, the CDC director, was on the outs as well with the president over testimony he gave on Congress, and he would work to repair that relationship. The health secretary, Alex Azar, constantly through the year of the pandemic working to repair his relationship with the president. These people wanted to hang on to their power, even if it meant that they were going to stay silent about the lies that were being fed to the public, or to repeat those lies themselves and to perpetuate that misinformation about the pandemic.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.